Nobody in the diner expected the morning to end in tears, least of all Ellie Marsh, who had poured coffee at the same counter for 6 years and thought she'd seen every kind of customer this town could produce. The man who walked in that day moved carefully, one hand braced on a cane, the other resting on the harness of a broad-shouldered German shepherd with clouded patience in his eyes. His name was Ray Doss, a former Navy SEAL who'd lost most of the strength in his left leg during his final deployment. And the dog beside him, Diesel, was the only thing standing between him and the kind of days he didn't like to talk about. Ellie had waited on quiet, guarded men before, but something about the way Ray flinched when the bell over the door rang told her this one was carrying more than a limp. And if you've ever watched someone hold themselves together in public while quietly falling apart inside, you already know why she couldn't just walk past his table without saying something kind. She brought him coffee before he asked for it and knelt down slowly to let Diesel sniff her hand before she dared reach for his head, the way her uncle, a K9 handler himself, had taught her years ago. Ray watched this with a strange, tired half-smile and told her not to bother, because Diesel only listened to him, that the dog had been trained to obey one voice and one voice only, his. But Diesel, it turned out, had other plans. When Ray's coffee cup trembled and slipped from his shaking hand, spilling hot liquid dangerously close to his lap, it was Ellie who calmly said down without thinking, and to everyone's shock, including Ray's, Diesel dropped instantly to the floor, clearing the space and giving her room to catch the mug before it could burn him. The diner went quiet. Ray stared at his own dog, like the ground beneath him had shifted. He said it again, more firmly this time, testing whether it was a fluke, and Ellie repeated the command gently, and again, without hesitation. Diesel obeyed her. Ray's jaw tightened, and for a moment Ellie feared she'd embarrassed him in front of the regulars, made him feel small in the one place he still felt some control. Instead, his voice cracked as he admitted something he hadn't said out loud in years, that Diesel wasn't just trained to listen to commands. He was trained to sense fear, real fear, the kind that lived under the surface of a man who used to run into gunfire, and now couldn't trust his own legs on a wet floor. Diesel had been quietly reading Ellie's calm the entire time. The same steady calm Ray used to carry into combat and lost somewhere overseas, along with a feeling in his leg. The dog hadn't betrayed him. He had simply recognized safety when he felt it, and it happened to be standing behind a coffee pot in an apron with someone else's name tag pinned crooked to her collar. Ellie sat down across from him, something she never did with customers, and listened as Ray talked for the first time in a long while about the mission that ended his career, about the silence of hospitals, about how Diesel was the only living thing that hadn't looked at him like he was broken. She told him about her own father, a man who came home from war different than he left, and how she used to wish someone had simply sat with him the way she was sitting now. Diesel rested his head on both their feet under the table, as if he too understood that something important was being repaired by the time the lunch rush rolled in. Ray was laughing quietly for what he later admitted was the first time in months, and Diesel's tail was thumping steadily against the tile floor. Ellie never did figure out why the dog listened to her that day, but she came to believe it wasn't really about training at all. It was about a man finally letting someone else share the weight he'd been carrying alone, and a dog smart enough to notice the exact moment it was safe to let go. If this story reached something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear that healing rarely comes loud. It comes quiet, patient, and unexpected. And tell me below, do you believe animals can sense what we're too afraid to say out loud?